Hello, this is Chuck Solomon, and welcome to the Candidate Experience Podcast, where we focus on the job candidate journey from apply to onboard and the space in between. Let's get started. You care about the candidate experience, but have you ever wondered exactly how to bring your company to that next level and offer a world-class experience to your candidates? It's not easy. Fortunately, Candidate.FYI can help. Their solution guides candidates through your hiring journey, enhancing transparency and communication at every touch point. You'll also gain valuable insights on what's working and what's not with your hiring process. Best of all, it integrates directly with your ATS. Head on over to Candidate.FYI and see how to transform your company's candidate experience today. In this ghosting, change, and confession episode, my guest, Erin Spencer, tries to stay in her lane as we explore several aspects of the job candidate experience. Pay special attention to what she shares about who is ultimately responsible for hiring. Is it hiring managers or HR? If you like what you hear on this podcast, please subscribe and share with others. Want to comment, discuss, or provide feedback, you can send me a note via LinkedIn or via the contact form on our website, www.thecx.xyz. I thank you in advance, and here's my interview. With us today is the co-founder of My Change Agent, Erin Spencer. Welcome, Erin.
Thanks so much. Well, like you said, I'm with My Change Agent. We are a management consulting firm with a twist. What we mean by that is every project that we work with small businesses, startups, family-owned businesses, is that we really do all of our work with a team approach. So we always believe, more than one head at the table is going to get you the best result, because collaboration always gets you the best outcome. So where we really are striving to do that really well is with businesses that need things around HR resources, process improvement, things like that. And then, as you mentioned, which, my background predominantly, my whole career has been in some facet of HR. I think I've done it all, from every small organization to a larger one. And I've had my hands in about every operational pot I possibly could, because I can't stay in my lane. It's a hard thing for me to do, I'll admit.
Well, that's good. I think the title, the name of your company, I think might suit your personality well.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think our biggest thing is that we just really want to help people make incremental progress, and that's what change is. It doesn't necessarily have to be significant. As long as it's moving in the right direction, you're creating change, which is good for everybody involved.
So are you more of evolution or revolution, or something in between?
I think I'm something in between. I think I want to come in and rock the boat and mix things up, but I think I'm learning the older I get that if you can get people to evolve over time, that really needs to be what you need to strive for. Just because I think that's, life's meant to be a journey, and that takes a while. Evolution's something that doesn't happen overnight.
Gotcha. Do you happen to be doing any hiring yourself for any of the projects that you're working on now?
Yeah, no. So we're really lucky. We're at a point where Carolyn and myself, my business partner, are trying to get out of doing some of the weedy work, and we've got some consultants and some folks that are working for us. Our eventual goal will have to be to hire some leads or some project managers that can lead all the different projects that we're working on. So we're dealing with what every other startup deals with. It's those growing pains. So we're getting to that point where we're able to increase our team and have other folks come in and help us, whether they're W-2 employees or consultants, which is great. So
I'll get back to that in a little bit there, but get back to it because you're not hiring right now, but you plan to. But I think I might get back to this and ask you, how would you and define, develop a really good hiring process for your own company? But let's get back to that in a few minutes there. One of the things I've been asking for feedback on this podcast from folks, and I try to make it really easy. Just go to thecx.xyz and go to the contact form, and you can be brutally honest. Feedback, what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see more of, what you'd like to see less of. You can even in the email space just put a fake email, like fakeemail@gmail.com. So you can be brutally honest. But one of the pieces of feedback that I got from a listener earlier this week is I asked my guests about a really bad hiring experience that they had, and this listener said, "Well, Chuck, why don't you talk about your own experience? You keep asking about other people and their experience, so why don't you why don't you share one of your experiences and stuff?" And I definitely have had my fair share, as I'm sure you have as well, in terms of a bad candidate experience. So I'll just share this real quickly, and I'm going to ask you as well what, the same question I ask everyone else. But I think if I'm asking the question, I should answer the question as well. So here it goes. The situation is some time ago, I don't recall exactly how long ago, but a company approached me. One of their internal recruiters found me, I believe, on LinkedIn. They had a position that was involved with recruitment marketing and employer branding. The company is not a huge company. I'd say mid to large size company, but you would definitely know its name as well. So I said sure at the time, and did a phone interview with a recruiter. Then the recruiter invited me to talk with the hiring manager. I thought everything went really well, and they were arranging for a time for me to come in and actually meet with the hiring manager and some other people on the team. And then a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and 3 weeks went by. And so I didn't hear anything. And so I figured, I guess they found someone else or what have you. But then about probably a month went by, and it happened to, how things come up in your LinkedIn feed. Hey, this job. And it was the job I was talking about with this recruiter and this hiring manager a month previously. And so I reached out to them again one more time, and I said, "Hey, are you still hiring? I thought we were moving forward. Perhaps things might have gotten lost." And ghosted again. So that's my experience. And I think I have some other guests that have talked about being ghosted before, and it's fine. I get it. Maybe they found someone else. That's fine by me. But they came to me first and asked me, and I said, right. And it just sort of died on the vine there. I bring this story up because this is actually a consumer brand, and your employer brand is really tied to your consumer brand. And I used to be a consumer of their brand, and now if I can avoid it, I kind of do, because there's a little bit of a bad taste there that, they couldn't even just send one of those auto emails that said, "Thanks, Chuck, we're going another direction here. Thanks so much." Even if it was one of those auto-generated from their ATS, I'd be okay with that, but still haven't heard from them yet. And it's been a long while now. So, but I just think the other point I want to make is that your employer brand is so tied to your consumer brand. And if a company has hundreds of people applying, I didn't even apply for this. They approached me, but only one person gets the job. And if you're a consumer brand and you're not closing the loop on the communication and just letting people know where they stand or that you close the position, I think it's impacting your brand. And I don't think anyone is is monitoring this. But if I was the CEO of the company or the CFO or what have you, I'd want everyone's experience to be a good one because I want to still keep people as consumers of our products.
No, and I would completely agree. And I hate to say it, Chuck. I think that you're not abnormal in probably what you've experienced or what you've felt. And I think that, before we chatted today, just kind of getting ready for our conversation, I think thinking about the whole candidate experience, whether you're the candidate or the employer, I mean, in my opinion, it all comes down to communication. And I
Agree.
think that
Agree.
I just think the thing that unfortunately has happened is on one side, recruitment, especially in that whole experience of, applicant tracking systems and using technology, is also something that I think a lot of people in this industry, in this field, are hiding behind, and then they're not also using it effectively. So what I mean by that is, we forget people along the way. HR either gets overwhelmed, managers don't give them feedback, information isn't transferred to a candidate, or when it is, let's be honest, 95% of the time it's extremely dry. It's very unhelpful to the candidate. And there's no communication that happens. I think, HR and managers are scared because of discrimination laws and all these other things that we've
Sure.
just completely, in my opinion, forgotten people's feelings along the way. And I think it's just closing the loop is a dying art. And I've done it. I'm not going to sit here and act like, the hundreds of people that have come across my plate that I've missed responding to people. But you're right. It completely looks bad on the company. But I think what a lot of people don't take ownership of is that looks bad from a personal branding perspective.
Sure.
Because Chuck, honestly, if I ever did that to you and you remembered my name at some point along the way, people remember those things. So it's not just hiding behind the company, it's also hiding behind your personal ethics. How would you feel if somebody didn't respond to you? So no, I completely agree. And I think unfortunately it's not creating those touch points or those communication points along the way. And I think it's also managers not understanding how much HR has to deal with, in my opinion. But that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day.
Well, first, thanks for telling me I'm not abnormal, and I am definitely going to share that. I'm sharing that with my family, friends, everyone there. You said it, so thank you very much. I'm not abnormal. But yeah, I what you said about personal branding and stuff. So, to the best of my knowledge, I've never talked to you about a job, so you're good with me here. And if you are confessing that maybe this happened along the way and you're apologizing for that, I hope if you missed something somewhere along the line there, that I hope people forgive you. So I would.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm begging for forgiveness this afternoon.
Again, I forgive you. So I hear from, direct line recruiters that there is something to close out and send that auto email out to everyone. I don't know if that's true or not. It's been your experience that you can close out a job and everyone gets that auto email. Is that true?
Yeah, well, it should be. I mean, I think it's like with anything, with sometimes technology doesn't work the way in which we thought it did. Sometimes that's user error, and sometimes that's honestly like a software issue. But I think in my opinion, more often than not, yes, the software's there. If people are using it effectively, minus any technical glitches, there's absolutely a way to reach out to candidates and let them know. I think to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I think for me, the most frustrating thing is what you mentioned in your personal experience, or what I kind of call the top tier candidates. it's very unfortunate these days that, the ones that might not make it through what I would call the first cut don't get a response. But I even think when we do a disservice to those top candidates that we don't communicate with appropriately, that have either had phone screens, in-person interviews, met with managers, and then we go radio silent. That to me is where we've got the biggest opportunity for improvement. And that sometimes, again, is just back to communicating. And I've even called candidates in my life of doing that and saying, I can't nail the manager down right now to get them to make a decision. So I know that you don't like that I'm hearing that we're in a holding pattern, but you need to assume that we are until you hear differently from me. And that doesn't feel good, honestly. And I hate even putting an organization in that position that I've worked for, but at least you're being honest. You're at least communicating and you're at least telling the candidate. But to go back to your original question, I mean, yes, absolutely. If things are working right from a technology standpoint, auto replies should work all day long. There's a way to move people through a process, tell them that they're a good fit or not a good fit, or at least, thanks, but no thanks. There's definitely normally ways and even very basic tools that only cost like $50 or $100 a month to set something up like that. It's out there. People just have to do the work.
Yeah, I want to do an episode sometime to just sort of talk about like favorite tools and things, or things that work, or processes. It might not necessarily be a tool, but it's a process that works, that sort of helps close that loop. I think ultimately it gets to a better candidate experience, and just a better experience with the brand as a whole. Is there do you have a bad story yourself you want to share, or was your confession enough for today? Or
Well,
and again, no naming names here. It's not about.
No naming
I don't
names.
I don't believe in shaming, but I do believe that as listeners hear the stories that are being told, they can go ahead and not be shamed, but I think I've done that, and here's how I can improve that. So,
yeah, no, I mean, and I think I've had, to answer your question, yes, I've had my fair share of unpleasant experiences. And most of the time, like I mentioned earlier, it just goes back to no communication. Like you feel like things are going in a positive direction, and then just radio silence is honestly one of the most frustrating experiences. And I think that, everybody says this. It's kind of like the commonplace thing these days. I'm busy. We're all busy. Everybody's got things going on. But I think when it comes to the candidate's experience, you as someone in HR, whatever that role might be, if you're in charge of recruitment, if you're a generalist, whatever, and a company, have to make it a priority that you want to treat the people that you want to welcome into your home with the utmost respect. And if that means that you've got to find ways to invest in tools and invest in more staff to make sure that people have a positive experience with you, that decision's got to be made first and foremost. And I think that unfortunately is probably just a conversation that's not happening, because everybody's getting busy. Job descriptions change. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been working an open position, and then the manager comes to me and says, okay, well, what I'm looking for is not really X, I want Y. And everything that I've gone and done, like the candidate pool might not even be the right fit. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, folks just don't tell that pool that applied that we're going in a different direction, and unfortunately you don't qualify anymore.
Wow.
And I think it's just unfortunate that we all are busy. Everybody does wear a million hats. And what ends up happening is we think about what we have to do and what has to get done, and we don't think about what that means for the people that are affected by it outside the organization. So to your point earlier, you named it, from a consumer branding perspective, or an organization that uses your product to not get back with people, they remember that. And unfortunately, they normally remember the bad.
Quick question here for you. In your opinion, and I'm not going to let you say either or, you have to answer A or B. No, there's no C on this one here. So, but you kind of brought it up with the hiring manager and trying to nail them down, and the recruiting team's working on something. But I mean, ultimately, in a company, who is responsible for hiring? The hiring managers or HR?
Yeah, and I think, well, Chuck, let me ask you this. Do you mean more from the process perspective of owning it, or do you, clarify for me where you're going with that a little bit? Do you mean the actual choosing of the candidate who needs to own that? What do you mean? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, more around like if you have the budget to hire, however many people, and there's openings, and they're just not going filled. I mean, where does the primary responsibility lie? Is it the hiring manager or HR? Or I'll let you off. It can be both, but
No,
I was trying to get to one.
No, I wasn't, and I won't give you a C. I mean, in my opinion, and what I think, and I just, at the end of the day, the hiring managers, in my opinion, need to be the ones to own that. And the reason I say that is if they've got a department that needs to function, goals that they need to meet, in order for them to do that, they've got to effectively find the right team. Now, where I feel like is kind of my sub answer to your question, the way that they do that effectively, ethically, process, getting what they've done, evaluating candidates, you can't do that without HR, but they're the conduit that helps you get your job done. It shouldn't be something, in my mind, that they're entirely responsible for, and that you can't, it's on them. It's their team, their managers. They've got to own that. And I think that is, it's different within every organization. I mean, you've got some organizations that, the first phone screening rounds of candidates are done by HR, but then it's the hiring manager's job to react to those candidates. Is HR on track? Is talent acquisition doing what they've asked of them? And if they're not an integral part of that process and giving feedback and leading it forward as the hiring manager, HR is never going to be successful. So I will give you a straight answer. I think it's B.
So what I heard you say was that it's the hiring manager's responsibility with the help and support of the HR team. Did I hear you correctly? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one can't happen without the other. And I think that when you've got a very succinct hiring team and a very integral HR department, everybody knows and understands that and works to the same end goal.
Certainly. When I talk to hiring managers or prospective clients of mine, I always learn that it really is the hiring managers that have most of the hiring pain. They have a product or service they're supposed to produce. They have a budget to hire people, and when they're not going to be able to meet their metrics if they don't have a full complement on their stuff. So it's really the hiring managers in most companies that are feeling the pain of not having a full complement of staff. At least that's what I run into with my clients.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because I think that with all of the bad also comes all of the good. So to your point, like when it's not working well, they feel it. And when it is working well, they really feel it, like in a good way, which is great. So I completely agree. I think at the end of the day, they get to deal with the pluses and the minuses of those situations.
Certainly. So I said I was going to get back to this about you hiring for your own team and stuff. So I'm going to grant you this. um, I'm going to grant you this. I'm going to say, Erin, you guys have a mountain of work that you need to do, and you need to start hiring staff. And when I say staff, they could be consultants or employees, what have you. But what would you envision that hiring journey to look like if you had, you had the budget to do it, and what would that look like?
Yeah, no, sure. So I think for me, it's, I don't know, it can be a positive or a negative. I think it is everything that we've talked about today is a lot about process and communication and structure. So for me, that's how I have kind of ran every department that I've ever run. And I think for even with my own organization, I wouldn't change that because I think it's historically worked well. I think it's figuring out, where our gaps are, where's the direction we want to go, and then what creative way can we do it to get there. So to your point, it might be consultants, it's contractors, it could be W-2 employees. But I think the other thing that I am turning a corner on, which I don't feel like everyone else is necessarily there yet. So either I'm cutting edge or I'm just completely an idiot, which is probably the later. But where I think I'm trying to also go is we really have got to start looking, I think, at people's soft skills. There are ingenious people in this world and people that are very talented, that they are who they are because of the experiences they've held. And we are all here to learn until the day that we are no longer here. And if you can find people that are critical thinkers, problem solvers, have got initiative and willing to put in 150%, at some point we can get them from a skills perspective where we need them to be. I can tell you that the best teams I've been a part of have been the ones that literally have those things. It's not, they may not have every skill or know everything that we want them to know, but if they've got that mind shift of being able to work really hard and work really well and solve any problem, our team and any of the consultants that we work with, those are the things I'm more focused on than I am about their past experiences and their skill set, because you can teach people lots of different things.
Sure.
Innate skills and people's personalities and how they work well with others and how they approach their work and respect and things like that. We're all pretty set in our ways by the time we're in our 20s. So that's a
Darn.
hard thing. Yeah, I know, right? That's a hard thing to undo. And I think we're getting there because, ironically, the more I'm reading and the more I'm finding from an education perspective, even in elementary, middle, and high school, and now even at the college level, they're really more focusing on people's critical thinking skills. Because I think we've missed that. I think we've kind of skipped over that with our generation, and we've been very focused on degrees and skill set, and people have to check off a certain box. And I don't think that that's where we're going to be in the next 100 years. And I think the best version of us in the States and in the world is going to be if we can embrace that type of mindset. So those are the types of people that we look to work with. They're what we call polymaths. I mean, people that you can put in a million different situations that are going to be successful no matter where they are, because they are going to drill you with questions and they are going to figure it out. And at the end of the day, I want a team that's going to run circles around me and do it better than I can.
Gotcha. Say that again.
It's a polymath is what it's called.
Gotcha. Polymath. So if you want to work for Erin or her teams, you best be a polymath. Do you have any suggestions for, I have job candidates, people looking for jobs, listening here. Any quick advice for them, how to find a great job?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I think it's being realistic, honestly. I've recently read a book called Designing Your Life. I don't know if you've read it, Chuck, and I'll give you a 2-minute synopsis, but it's two professors out on the West Coast in California that their whole approach is everybody kind of taking a baby step in the right direction. I think so. What I mean by being realistic is know that what you're looking for, you may not check off every box, but when you get the right opportunity or you get in the right company, you can make that job what you want it to be. So what I mean by that is if you're in the right area and you know what you want to do, then go after it. And I think and try it and network like crazy. I think, we're talking about technology and things like that. I think a lot of us know these days, work your networks, work your relationships, and don't be scared to ask for help and be interested in what other people are doing. Because if you learn about somebody else just because you're flat out curious, it opens a door that you never thought would be there. And then to kind of get more tactical to your question too, Chuck, I think people need to focus more on what they can do and what they've done and what they've been able to build as opposed to what they've done in the past. Don't be scared to share and reach out to people about and that's a little bit of a harder thing to get people to grasp onto, but I think don't be scared to do that as a candidate.
Great advice, Erin. Erin, if folks want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, our company's My Change Agent. Our website is mychangeagent.co. So it's mychangeagent.co. No M on the end. You won't find us. You can always find me on LinkedIn is a great way to follow us as well and get to know a little bit about our business. So either one of those ways are great ways to look us up.
Erin, I appreciate your time this afternoon and your insights. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks for listening to the Candidate Experience podcast. You can reach out to us via our website, thecx.xyz. That's thecx.xyz.